Just like, yeah, I mean, if you are a kid in a sweet shop, there's a point where you're going to be sick. So you've got to not puke. So you've got to not eat so many sweets that it's disgusting.
Hello, my name's Ella Kemp and you're watching NME, and today for the latest in our In Conversation series, we're joined by James Acaster.
Hello.
How are you doing, James?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thanks. We're not here to talk about your comedy. I will say that now. We can if you want, but we're here to talk about a different project.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about Temps, your first kind of official foray into music.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could sort of explain Temps to anyone who might not have heard of it and where you specifically fit into this new collective.
Yeah, well, yeah, it is a collective. It's a group. There's about 40 people on the album. And I kind of am the producer on it, and I'm mainly the organizer, really. That's like really most of what I did is a lot of admin, organising it, emailing people, asking them to do bits and bobs. But yeah, it started out off with a load of drum beats that I'd recorded before the lockdowns. And then during the lockdowns, it was me sending the drum beats to different musicians who I'm a massive fan of and getting them to contribute to it. And then an album kind of just happened.
Yeah. Did you enjoy doing all the admin?
Yes, most of the time. You know, sometimes if you don't hear back from someone for a very long time, you start to worry that you're not going to get that person on the album, and you want them on the album so much that, you know, you've already got it in your head what they'll sound like and how good it'll be. And then if you're not hearing back from them, you start to panic a little bit. But everyone came through. So as long as everyone comes through in the end, then it's a positive experience. Yeah.
Every single musician that you reached out to, is everyone on the album, or was there anyone who you had to kind of leave on the cutting room floor in any way?
Everyone who contributed and recorded something is on there.
Amazing.
Yeah, so no one, I didn't get rid of anyone's entire thing. You know, I was, cherry picking all my favourite bits that people did.
Yeah.
But yeah, no one got cut out of it.
Amazing.
You try and use as much of the animal as possible in the kitchen, right?
So Temps kind of started from something that was supposed to be completely something else, right? There was stories about like a mockumentary funded by Louis Theroux and things like that sort of fell through. What was the pipeline from Louis Theroux to Temps and Partygator?
Well, it was meant to be that I was taking 2020 off of stand-up, was genuinely the plan. And I thought I'd do a mockumentary about me sidestepping into the music industry and taking myself really serious as a musician and being really pretentious. And I spoke to Louis' production company at the time, and they liked that idea. So we made a taster tape that was like 15 minutes long that we could take to channels of me going back to my childhood home, getting my old drum kit, which hadn't been played in over a decade, and also going to my friend's house and picking up an old life-size like toy alligator that I'd won as a kid at a fair, and taking those things back to London into a studio, and me just recording drums for 2 days using this alligator as a muse. So it was meant to be silly and stupid and like just like a send-up of a comedian taking himself seriously as a musician. But then obviously when COVID hit and there were lockdowns, that all got scrapped. We weren't able to do that. It had to get completely cancelled. But I had like 4 hours of drums that myself and Seb Rockford, a professional jazz drummer, had recorded. And I just kept on listening to them because Seb is one of my favourite drummers of all time. So for me, listening to my rusty, out-of-time drumming on an out-of-tune drum kit, accompanied by him just playing incredibly, the way he plays drums is so melodic, over the top of mine. It was really exciting to listen to every day while I was doing my daily exercises in my living room and going for walks. I just listened to these drum beats and myself playing with my hero. And so then you just kind of go, I'm really invested in these now, and I'd like to add stuff to them. I've got nothing to do, neither has anyone else at the moment, so I'll start sending it to musicians that are on that same level of like how much I idolise them and how much I'm a fan of theirs, and see if they want to contribute to it as well. And I didn't anticipate so many of them would do it, and it just feels like a bit of it felt very surreal doing it, that I had these people that if I, as a fan of theirs, saw that they were both guested on the same track, I'd like buy that track without even listening to it because I love them so much. So let alone to like have them on the same track together, and I'm on there and we're making it together was incredible.
What did you have an idea in mind of, like, ideally how many artists you wanted, thinking, okay, maybe the idea that the album would work with maybe 10 featuring artists?
Yeah, it's probably a lot smaller than I ended up with.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be 40. I think at the time I was like, okay, if I can get someone to do, so I've got me and Seb, so if I can get someone to do bass, someone to do guitar, maybe some synths, and then I can get like a couple of vocalists or whatever. And I thought it would be maybe, 3 songs or something like that. And it would just kind of like, with each person that I sent it to, they'd always give me more than I thought, and that would like trigger me even more ideas. The first person I sent the drum beats to was Joanna Gamila, who was in Barcelona locked down. She's an amazing jazz musician, folk musician, and experimental electronic musician. I just wanted her to play double bass on it because I knew she was amazing at that. But she didn't feel like doing that, so her and Leia Velez, who were locked down together, just spent the weekend playing over so many of the drum beats with synths and vocals. So that just immediately gave us this bed of like way more tracks than I thought. And I really liked them all, and I could like cut them up and mess around with them and make skeletons of songs. So then from that, it kind of set the precedent that, just lean into whatever they do and don't have a plan anymore. Like, you can't really plan for it because you want them to have fun. You don't want to text them, email them and go, do exactly what I want you to do and all this. So it was really nice just being open to whatever they gave you and running with that.
Did you give yourself any rules at all? Because I feel like you must have to cut back at some point, because even if the energy is kids like in the best sweet shop you've ever been in, what was your kind of line that you knew you had to cut everything at?
Just like, if you are a kid in a sweet shop, there's a point where you're going to be sick. So you've got to not puke. So you've got to not eat so many sweets that it's disgusting. So it was just a case of like, let everyone just do as much as they want, but then put yourself in some sort of like, in a much more, I don't know, just when I was listening back to it, be a bit more ruthless with, I can't have all this in there just because I love these people. I've got to like listen to the song as well and let the song be the best version of itself that it can. So there was a lot of, as we were going along, just removing stuff more than anything. And then often when you remove stuff, you would sometimes think, actually now this bit seems a bit empty, but what was there before wasn't quite working, so actually I'll reach out to this other person, so then there's another person added to it. So that's what would happen a lot of the time in terms of getting more musicians than you thought would be. You'd hear a sax solo there, so you'd phone someone and then you'd end up with another guest on it. But yeah, it was more just like, be a fan of it, because I was a fan of all these people. So then if you're approaching it primarily as a fan and a listener, then it is like you've bought an album by these musicians you're a fan of, and somehow you're able to interact with it and get rid of any bits that aren't working for you and plug in any bits by other people that you would like to be in there instead. And you just get to do that until, So I'm just going by my own, my own ears and leaning into the fact that I'm quite naive and new at it, and seeing that as an advantage because I don't, I won't really appreciate what they've done, how it works. So I can just listen like anyone else would, and go, I don't like that, get rid of it. And then that's it. Yeah.
If you're approaching it as a fan and you're reaching out to all these people to work on it, do you tell them from the very start, Partygator is going to be the muse, is going to be the mascot, is going to be like the face of this? And I mean, how do you have all of these musicians who you love and your alligator, who is the serious front of this?
Yeah.
What is his journey?
Well, I guess, serious fun, stretching it. But like, well, he was like in the mockumentary. I didn't know that he was going to be involved in the mockumentary. It was that when I picked the drum kit up, my friends genuinely said to me, can you pick this alligator up from our house, as we've been looking after it for ages for you. And
it was at your friend's house?
It's at my friend's house. I had to get rid of it in like 2012 when I was moving in with my girlfriend at the time. And she was like, our flat is tiny. You can't reasonably bring that in here because it's like the size of a person. So I gave it to my friends. They had it for like, over 10 years. And then they were like, we're now married and we would like you to take this out of our house. Yeah. So I just kind of thought, I'll just do that when I pick up the drums. And because we're doing a mockumentary, I can improvise that it's deliberate and that, the idiot that I'm playing in the mockumentary is like, this is the muse for the whole thing. So that kind of worked, and I made out in the mockumentary that, you know, oh, it's going to be 3 stages of the partygator's life. It's going to be partygator, RIP, purgatory, and resurrection, and that's the 3 stages of the album. And it was just like improvising it and talking about my relationship, my genuine relationship with this toy, and seeing if I could, like, you know, make that part of the story. I didn't really know what the idea was at the time.
Yeah.
It was just, you know, the idea that a comedian would take stupid stuff really seriously because they think they're a musician now. So when we started actually making the album, I thought, well, that's kind of part of the fabric of it anyway. And I don't want to shy away from that. I don't want to actually become the person in that mockumentary and take myself really seriously and go, no, I'm not going to have the partygator in it because that's jokey and that's not who I am anymore. I'm not a comedian anymore, I'm a musician. It was like, no, this already feels like it's a part of this, so just keep it in. So with the vocalists, with the lyricists, I would say, like, okay, there's kind of like 3 stages, and you don't have to write about this alligator in any way, but it's like death, purgatory, and resurrection, and that's kind of like the 3 bits of the album. And then they would write about it in their own personal way, you know, something from their life, or something that, or just their views on those subjects in general, or whatever, however they wanted to write about it. I don't think anyone wrote about an alligator. But then just knowing that I at least had something visual to run with for that part of the project as well. For the front cover or for the videos, I already had this thing that I could mess around with, and they weren't as bound to the partygator as I was. They had more freedom.
Yeah. What were some of the most surprising things you got back from when you were giving all these artists, I suppose, relatively loose briefs, but you know, something like the stages of Partygator or the other parts of the album?
Yeah, well, like, I guess, I mean, to begin with, there was Joanna sending the synths and the vocals when I was expecting bass, so that was awesome. And then I sent those to John Dieterich of Deerhoof and said, can you put bass on it? And he put bass, and guitar, and keys, and, like, you know, extended some of the songs as well. So he did way more than I thought. So already, like, really early on, the first 2 people that I sent them to completely did more than I had in mind in the best possible way. And I ended up with some pretty, like, solid, ready to go instrumentals after just 2 people. And then sometimes, yeah, people would, you know, I'd maybe say to someone, I would say to Quelle Chris is on like 7 of the songs on the album, and I said to him, can you do a rap on this bit? And he would always know what to do. So if I said, like, I would always just say rap here, but then he would go, rap won't, you know, sometimes he would rap, and sometimes he'd go, a rap won't sound good there. I've done a monologue, a spoken word monologue, or I've done a more like a sung section. And it would always be the right thing for it. And you're like, this is why I'm asking these people, because at the end of the day, they know how to make songs way better than I do. Yeah. And you would get these things back from them that I couldn't possibly have thought of myself. And then again, that listener in you and that fan in you is just ignited, because you're like, oh, they did this and I didn't expect them to do this, and now the song is different, and I can approach it differently, and that means I can now ask this person to do something, you know. Yeah. So and there were some bits that's made the songs longer. You get someone do a section that actually, you know, that Nandi recorded a section for a song and then said, you know, you can use it on this verse, but actually I think it would sound better a cappella. It's up to you. And it did sound better. It did sound really great a cappella. So I guess let's put it at the front of the song, and now the song's longer, and that worked as well. So, like, I really liked just everyone having these different ideas, presenting them, and they were always right as well. Yeah. I don't think any of their ideas were ever like, I never went, nah, wrong. It was always like, yeah, you're right, you're a genius, let's do that.
What was it like working with Shamir in particular as well?
Well, amazingly, I've been a Shamir fan for a really long time, and we had met before when Shamir was playing in Camden here. I kind of went down and picked up a copy of Hope on vinyl from them, and we hung out for a bit. And then, like, yeah, they came to see me in New York. We hung out after that show, so we were already kind of friends. And also, like, I guess that was the first person I worked with on it who did say to me, like, no, like, tell me exactly what you want, and I'll do that. And that was a really good part of the process for me, was going, I know, don't just send these to everybody and go, do what you like. Because actually, that's not always the most freeing thing for people. Yeah. That gives people so many options, and they're like, well, I don't even know what this project is. Yeah. But yeah, Shamir was just like, you tell me what you want for these songs and how you want me to do it, and that will be way more helpful to me than you just telling me do whatever you want and I've got to go away and actually think of everything myself.
Yeah.
So like that was a really good way of like collaborating and moving on from that with everyone else, just saying to them like, tell me how you want to work, instead of me just saying to them do what you like. It was more like, you know, do you want to have a Zoom call and go over this? Do you want to, you know, just have the freedom to do whatever? And some people would say, you know, let's have a Zoom call, tell me exactly what you want, and then they would do whatever they wanted anyway. But like, but you know, sometimes I think it's good to hear my idea and realise that's shit and do a different one. So, but yeah, I mean, Shamir was, I think, the first person to finish all their vocals. So I had these,
Efficient as well.
yeah, four tracks immediately that I loved and were very exciting. And then that meant that the other vocalists going on those songs, that was the jump off for them. They listened to Shamir's bit and be like, right, what are these lyrics? What are they singing about? And then that would inform what they were going to sing about on the song as well. So the genesis of a lot of themes on the album as well.
Having all of this control, even if you're giving people control, but kind of orchestrating so many people, did it make you miss working on your own a bit more, like, I suppose, with comedy, or actually be happier working with more people? It
was just a great change. Like, I've worked on my own with stand-up for a long time, and sometimes it's harder to then work with other people on comedy because you're used to doing stand-up or comedy on your own. This was such a new thing for me. You know, I'd been in bands before I did stand-up and was very serious about that, but I'd never like made an album from scratch that didn't exist yet and recording it and writing it at the same time. And I'd never produced anything before or mixed something like as intensely as this one. So there's a lot of new things, and if I had been doing it on my own, I think I would have just, I don't know how long I would have lasted really. So having this many people who knew more than I did about it and I could collaborate with them properly. And like, collaborations are frustrating if the other person isn't pulling their weight, isn't bothered about it. But when you've got this many people who are all enthusiastic about it and want to do it, and it doesn't hurt that you've got them all locked in their homes for a while, then it's a joy, because I'd just be so excited every time I saw a new email in my inbox that had a paperclip on it and was one of their names. I was like, I get to listen to this today. And then I knew that once I listened to it, I got to mess around with it and send, email someone else. And it was just like this constant, because there were so many people as well. If you weren't hearing back from someone for a while, it didn't really matter, because you had like 30 other people who'd sent you stuff. And so you were always working on it and always busy. So, and even if you hit a dry patch with that, you go, oh, I'll draw the front cover today, or I'll make a music video. So there was always stuff to be doing. And it was always multifaceted as well. Yeah. So now that, you're not in lockdown anymore and all of your favourite musicians are not trapped at home with only the tracks to send you, what does the future for Temps kind of look like to you? Like, would you be able to plan live shows in any way, like to tour any of it at all? Or does it feel like a kind of, I suppose, like a contained project? Yeah, it's a bit of a question mark at the minute. I think right now, all I really want to do is make sure that the album finds its audience. It's like, we've all worked so hard on it. I'm incredibly proud of it. So I just want the people who will connect with it to hear it. So that's kind of all I'm thinking about at the minute. And then like beyond that, I have no idea how I would organise a live gig. For me personally, I think there's got to be demand for it first. If people are asking for a live gig, I'll think about it and sort it out. But if no one is, it would be mad to put myself through trying to go, how do we get all these people in multiple different countries together? Then they would actually have to learn the songs because they've all played them once ages ago and never together before. There'd have to be so much to do. It's all doable, it's feasible, but I think it'd be so hard that I think I would have to like contact Louis' company again and be like, okay, let's make this documentary because this could be a disaster. So at least we can capture that on camera. So yeah, I don't know. And I don't even know if we'll, be able to do another recorded thing again. You just don't know. It might be something that was something we were able to do in that space of time and that it's best just left like that. We'll just see how we're feeling, I think. With Louis' company, having kind of spawned off from that, do you now know if he's heard the music? And did you ever have any temptation to ask him? The only reason I ask is not just because he's a comedian. He's done his rap now. Like he's recorded that. He's moved into music in his own way as well. Was there ever any temptation there at all? No, I'd rather just get a beef going with him. If he's doing music, I'd rather rub it in his face that we used his money to start our project and that we tricked him and made him think I was going to do a mockumentary and I didn't. And then if he wants to do a beef, if he wants to like do a diss track at us, then fair enough, I'll be on the receiving end of a Louis Theroux diss track. But we told him, I told him that I would be putting it out there that we used his money to start the project.
Anything you want to say to him now?
Thank you, Louis. He's fine. As far as I know, he's fine with it. And he's also sent us the footage of the mockumentary that we're going to use for one of the music videos. So that was very kind of him as well. Good guy.
Obviously, you've got all of these individual musicians bringing in their style, but did you have anything in mind in terms of other influences?
Not, because weirdly, so I was in a unique position of the people I was asking were my influences. Yeah. So it's a bit, so like with Gorillaz, it was more just methodically how they do it rather than sound-wise. I wasn't trying to sound like Gorillaz, but it was like, okay, there's a template for that, for someone producing the album and like orchestrating it, but bringing in so many collaborators and one song to the next is a different lineup. So I can kind of follow that blueprint a little bit, but I haven't got a studio and the facilities that he's got. So it had to be a lot more DIY and people doing it in their homes and sending it. But yeah, it was weird because like I would hear, however the track was and just think of something that I would think of an influence, someone I'd like it to sound like, and I'll just email them. So it was kind of like every time you thought, it would be cool if we did a track like, that sounded like there was a whole bit on one song. I was like, this would be so cool if it had like loads of recorders on it, like on that Surface to Air Missive album, Air Missive album that I like. I was like, I'll chance my luck and email the guy from Surface to Air Missive and see if Taylor Ross wants to record loads of recorders for us. And he did, and they're like, great, because I want it to sound exactly like your album, so can you do it like that? So that was like, it was, there was never like any influences who weren't the people who were on there. And that the majority of what I've been listening to over the past few years. So if I did try and make an album and they weren't on it, I probably would have tried to make it sound like them and failed, and it would be very embarrassing. Right. So luckily I was able to email them. Yeah.
Now that you've worked with all of your favourite artists, or maybe the most favourite thing you've ever done, how do you feel about stand-up comedy? Purely because I can imagine that for a lot of people, that might be their favourite thing that they know you as doing. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of look at that in terms of anything you might do in future?
What's been good about it is that, like, I was doing bands, when I was a teenager into my early 20s, and thought in my head, I was like, this is going to be my entire life. This is all I'm going to do is music. And then, when that band split up, I started doing stand-up as a placeholder originally, and then I fell in love with stand-up, and I just loved doing it, and got really obsessed with that. And then that's opened doors to doing other things. You can do a podcast or write a book or whatever. And I didn't think I'd ever find my way back to this or do music again. And then it kind of just organically happened, and I made that. And so now it's more that, like, I don't know what I'm going to do moving forwards. I haven't really got any plans, but what it's definitely made me feel is that you can just do anything, one thing to the next, and it doesn't have to be, okay, I'm cutting down, I'm not doing stand-up now, or this is my main thing. Like, it's just whatever idea you have from that's like coming down the pipeline. So like, at the minute, there are other music things that I want to do. So I'm going to do those, but there's also other comedy things I want to do, and I'll find time for those as well. And it's not, I won't be like restricting myself really. I'll just be making sure I do projects that I really love and I care about. You just have to not worry too much about, whatever the main label is that people like for you, because they're entitled to that. Like, I completely get it. I've been doing stand-up for ages. If people want to be like, no, it's just comedy, that's cool. And then anyone who's open to this can get into this as well. So like, I don't know. I'm touring the stand-up show second half of this year, so that's not stopping. Yeah. And but literally this Monday coming up, I'm in the studio recording music. So it can just all happen at once. Yeah.
Do you think that comedy audiences and music audiences might have a different sort of temperature check or energy in, when you're in the room doing these things, if you did bring Temps into a room in a kind of, I'm seeing it as like a stop making sense David Byrne thing, where someone starts as one person on stage and then half an hour later there's
Yeah.
40 people.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? I bet it'll be completely different. I mean, definitely when I was playing in bands, in like little pubs and stuff growing up, I mean, I didn't like it. I don't love being on stage, which
Generally.
I've learned. Yeah, just generally. So like, as too many of my audiences at stand-up gigs will attest to. I'm sure it'd be completely different. Stand-up, you've got this whole discipline of, try and get them to laugh within a certain amount of time at the beginning so that you have a good gig, and there's all these different rules, and once you get better at all those, you know how to navigate the show a bit more and maybe bend those rules a bit more. And then with music, if I was to start doing that, I'd have to learn a whole new skill set, and I'd have to view it the same as I viewed recording it, which is that I'm new to this, I'm learning, and surround yourself with people who know more than you, listen to them, just throw yourself into the actual project you're doing, use everything you're learning as to your best ability, and then hopefully that'll mean you get better as you progress. So I don't really, again, I can't anticipate what the audiences would be like if we did it, but however they respond, they're probably right.
Do you think it could work if you were not on stage? Like, would that make you feel better to not be on stage with Temps, or would you need to be?
Well, the thing with this would be, I mean, if I wanted to, I guess, I could be the one in the partygator outfit as my own...
You'd get very hot.
Be my own bez. Yeah, it'd be hot. It'd be boiling. But I could still bez it. Or I could do an MF Doom and send someone in the outfit for me, and everyone assumes it's me. And I'm just...
you just have an easy life.
I'm at home, watching it on a live stream. So maybe I'll do that. There's a world in which that could happen. I'm already, internally debating doing that for my own album launch. So
I'm surprised that you didn't just bring Partygator here instead.
Nearly did. We got a new version of him as a puppet, as a hand puppet.
So there's a mini one now?
Yeah, the mini one. Because I got a couple more videos to film. We've ended up doing videos for every song on the album. So I've got 2 more to film, and I don't want to wear that suit again because it's very hot. So I thought I'd change it up. Got a glove puppet made.
I would just love to know, if we were doing Desert Island Disc, if we were doing another version of a podcast, what would be the 1 or 2 recent songs? Recent being a loose definition, being whatever you want, that you would put on there.
Man, recent ones. I mean, I enjoyed the Little Yachty album this year, the Algiers album, and the Slow Tie album at the moment. I don't know if I'd pick individual tracks off those because I love them. I'm enjoying them as a whole project. There's an artist called Gula who I really love, who takes African music and messes them with electronically. Does a lot of scratching with vinyl, goes to flea markets and gets his old vinyl. And he just put out his second album, and I'm really enjoying that and the change in direction there. And there's a lot of songs, especially towards the end of the album, that are darker than what he's done in the past, and more kind of synth heavy, that I'm really enjoying and listening to a lot this year. Maybe I'd go for one of his songs if I was going to do an individual one, although I don't know how to pronounce any of them, so especially not off the top of my head. So I'd just say listen to anything by Gula, and that would be my current Desert Island Disc. But I am enjoying the fact that the albums everyone's talking about so far this year,
they're actually good.
I'm connecting with as well. And it's nice to, sometimes you connect with an album everyone's talking about, sometimes you don't.
Yeah. And
it's nice when you do, and you get to enjoy that conversation that everyone's having. And definitely those ones. I don't know what people are saying about the Algiers one, but I think it's great.
Yeah. And finally, one artist who would feature on Temps 2?
There was an artist called the Doyen, who is based in, I don't know where, Phoenix, I think, who did an album in 2019 that I absolutely loved, with a track called End Chaos on it. That's and they kind of sing in an almost cabaret style, these electronic instrumentals, and I do think they would have fitted in with the vibe of the project so well. And they were the only person actually who because there's a chorus on the album that I was what would that sound like if we doubled that chorus up and got the Doyen to sing on it as well? And we couldn't make it happen in the end, which is fine. The track, I'm very happy with the song, but it's the only person that I was they felt like they should be in this. So that's the only person I'd kind of at the minute I would add to that universe. I'm still very much in the stages of feeling like that universe is complete. So if I start thinking too much of other people, man, I won't enjoy it now. Yeah.
Well, enjoy it for now. Leave the brick for the next step to
Yeah.
one side. Congratulations. And
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.